Shalom. Abraham, the forefather Abraham, was originally named Abram. He lived in Ur-Kasdim, translated as Ur of the Chaldees, or of the Chaldees. He is often identified with Ur of Sumer in Mesopotamia. Rabbis and others have associated with Urfa in southeast Turkey, also known as Adami and Edisa. But we are not certain, no one is certain exactly as where Abraham came from, but he came from somewhere to the north of the land of Israel. And Abraham had been told by the Almighty to leave where he was and go to the land of Canaan. Genesis 12 says, and the Lord said to Abraham, go forth from your land and from your birthplace and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will aggrandize your name. I will make your name glorious, renowned, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you. So Abraham was therefore told by the Almighty that would become a great nation, to be blessed, revered, and to bring blessings upon whomsoever would bless him. All nations of the earth would be blessed through him. Later, Abraham was promised that his seed would be as the stars of heaven, for the multitude of very large number of people on world standard, on a worldwide scale. Genesis 15:5, they would inherit the land of Canaan. Genesis 15:18-21. And the name of Abraham was changed to Abraham. His name was explained to mean the father of many nations. Genesis 17:5. Would become extremely progenitive and fruitful, have many children, marry very many children. And the promise to inherit the land of Canaan was repeated and linked with the worship of God and the rite of circumcision. See Genesis 17:8. And one of the promises when involved, as we see in Genesis 17, one of the promises, as we see in Genesis 17, concerns what we have been spoken of. It says, and I will give you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, the entire land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be to them for a God. God said to Abraham, and you shall keep my covenant, and you and your seed throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall observe between me. It's my covenant which you shall observe between me and between you and between your seed after you, that every male among you be circumcised. You shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be as a sign of a covenant between me and between you. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, had her name changed from Sarai to Sarah. See Genesis 17:16. The Almighty said, and I will bless her, and I will give you a son from her, and I will bless her, and she shall become a mother of nations. Kings of nations shall be from her. And several nations parallel to each other would come out of her. And in Genesis 18 says, and Abraham shall become a great and powerful nation, all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him. For I have known him because he commands his sons and his household after him, that they should keep the way of the Lord to perform righteousness and justice, in order the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he spoke concerning him. Later we have the Akedah, the blinding. Abraham was told to take his son, Isaac, his only son. The Almighty refers to Isaac as the only son of Abraham, and to offer him up as a sacrifice. Isaac is referred to as his only son, see Genesis 22:2, even though Abraham had begotten another son named Ishmael. The other son, Ishmael, had been given his own blessings previously, and but the main promise was to be fulfilled through Isaac. From the point of view of the Almighty, he was the only son of Abraham. Abraham was commanded to take his son Isaac and offer him up. He proceeded to do so, tying down Isaac to the altar. And Abraham raised the knife to slaughter Isaac, but at the last minute it was prevented by an angel. And a ram was substituted for Isaac. And we hear Genesis 22, verse 15. An angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven. And he said, by myself have I sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and do not withhold your son, your only son, that I will surely bless you. And I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, as the sands that is on the seashore, and your descendants will inherit the cities, translated here as cities, with action in Hebrew, Sharei Oivav, that is, it means the gates, as in most translations do render it, as the gates of their enemies. Your descendants will inherit the gates of their enemies, that is, strategic thoroughfares and pathways and bases. And through your children shall be blessed all the nations of the world, because you have hearkened to my voice. So henceforth, a portion of the blessings were unconditional. After the Al-Qaeda, a portion of the blessings were unconditional. We have two alignments of promises. One, conditional, entailing the keeping of circumcision and the commandments. This was connected with inheriting the land. It was conditional. Unconditional is something that had to come about no matter what. The Israelites would become exceedingly numerous on a worldwide scale that would receive the blessings of inheriting the gates of their enemies, winning the strategic thoroughfares and important bases and pathways and so on. And in effect, the Britain and the USA and other related nations have received those blessings. In the past they did receive a great empire, or great empires, and they have been a blessing to the rest of the world, and they have uplifted the rest of the world despite many possible reservations that we may have. According to the standards of their time, or relatively speaking, they were usually an uplifted force. Most peoples, or all peoples whom they occupied, whom they ruled over, benefited from them. They were a stabilizing influence in the earth. And they were descended from the lost 10 tribes of Israel. The Israelites had been divided into two different sections. They had divided into two different sections. One section went away, was exiled and moved, lost awareness of its ancestry, and it moved to the west and moved to the north. And they became nations of Western Europe. And they helped found different empires that ruled over a good portion of the earth. We had the French, we had the Dutch, we had the British, and after them came the Americans, the Pax Americana, which has also been very important in influencing the world, and it still is. And it is, in its own way, the most important nation on earth, and it still is. And it is descended from these peoples. They descend from the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And that they are fulfilling this role that have been prophesied concerning the descendants of Abraham helps prove they are the descendants of Abraham. And there are many, many more items of evidence that strengthen this assumption, that strengthen this axiom, a point that is axiomatic insofar as no other nation, there are no other candidates to fulfill these blessings apart from these peoples who are related to each other, one group of peoples. And they are descended from the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Blessings entail a requirement for circumcision. The circumcision was linked with inhabiting the land. In addition to that, there were other blessings who were not so connected. In the future, these peoples will return and they will keep the law, and they will also receive inheritance in the land, a tribal inheritance, alongside their brethren, and they will also keep the law, and they still will keep circumcision. But at the moment, they're not necessarily obliged to do so. There may be a good thing, there may be all kinds of benefits, social and psychological and physical benefits connected with circumcision that would accrue to them if they would keep it. In effect, many people in the USA today do keep circumcision. Possibly a majority of the people in the USA. So too in Australia, it was quite common when I was young. More than 80% of the males kept circumcision. Nowadays it's maybe only 20%, but it's still a lot. And so too in other places, in New Zealand, in Canada it is less, in the UK it is less, and each nation is different. On the whole, it is a positive phenomenon. And it depends upon the authorities. In some places the authorities are against it, in other places they don't want to enforce it, in other places they have problems with carrying it out. The doctors lack the confidence to do it, they have not practiced with it, and so on. But it is worth noting. Blessings, Abraham was giving these blessings. A portion of the blessings after the Akedah, after the binding, were unconditional, and they had to be fulfilled, and they were fulfilled, and the Israelites did carry out their part of the bargain insofar as they used the blessings not only to benefit themselves, but they also uplifted and upgraded the nations whom they ruled over. And they have ruled over other peoples and blessed them and brought a blessing unto them. And they've also possessed the gates of their enemies, the strategic passes and byways and entrances and strategic points of vantage over their enemies. They're literally speaking the gates of them into them. And they have fulfilled this blessing, and they are the only ones who have consistently done this, and are still doing this. So this is worth noting. May the Lord God of Israel bless you and help you.